Okay, good evening, everybody. Hopefully, I'm coming through loud and clear. Anybody watching, just let me know if things seem kind of quiet in the volume area. Let me see here. We are going to be reviewing a video that I just caught this one. Yeah, it's from the 28th. Tom Rabbit put this one up, and I watched it, and I thought he's having this. This isn't a long one; it's only 8 minutes. I might get into another one because it's been a while since I've reviewed some of these, and there've been a few that have kind of like made me curious. But this one's got some stuff from Darth Dawkins that actually is kind of fatal to most, if not all, of his entire argument. So I'm going to try to jump into that. I'll probably just start playing this one now, and then we'll see where he goes here. Again, let me know if I haven't used this computer in a while, and it's been through a rebuild. So if things are quiet, muffled, or if anything weird's going on, just let me know in the live chat.
No, but I don't know. Like, while the guy isn't here, maybe someone else gets the point, right? He's saying that if you're limited in that domain to only do things of one kind, then you're not free. I'm just saying you can apply that to any domain and say we're not free, right? Like, you can say, well, you're limited to only going to the purgatory, heaven, or hell. Like, but why isn't there like a fourth option? Why are we limited to only those options?
Because that's the way God made it.
Wow, that was very helpful.
Well, that's a biblical answer. Yeah. Well, do you have an objection to that?
No, I said it was very helpful.
Okay, I thought you were being sarcastic.
I feel like you can just answer any issue like that, right? Like, why is there evil? Because God made it that way. Why are there laws of logic? Because God made it that way. I guess that's why the Christian worldview is the best. You can just answer anything.
No, we don't.
Like,
we don't argue. Anything. No, that's not the Christian position. Is not that the Christian worldview is the best. The position is that the Christian worldview is the only coherent worldview.
Okay, watch this. The only coherent worldview.
Wouldn't that make it the best one?
Well, that would be.
Dispense supplements virtually on one platform.
Best is a superlative, meaning that there are other.
Let me push back a little bit, a few seconds here.
Well, that would be. Best is a superlative, meaning that there are other viable options. It means that.
Okay, he just said that Christianity he thinks his words were, it's the only coherent worldview. If there's other worldviews and all of those ones are incoherent, this one is coherent, that means it's probably safe to say it's best. But especially if coherence is something that's good for a worldview as opposed to bad for one.
We don't say it's the best, it's the only, because all other worldviews, first of all, they don't exist. Number two, they're just not coherent.
Catch that? If you didn't catch that, I'm going to play that one again.
Because all other worldviews, first of all, they don't exist. Number two, they're just not coherent.
Just going to wind that back, drop that playback speed down a little bit.
It's the best, it's the only, because all other worldviews, first of all, they don't exist. Number two, they're just not coherent.
So they don't exist and they're not coherent. That's really where he's trying to go with this. Sasha gets a quick question out here, and
they don't exist.
Let's say,
if you couldn't hear over Darth starting to sputter, and he's going to do a little bit more sputtering, how can they be incoherent if they don't exist? It's a good question. Like, it's unnecessary to say that something's incoherent if it doesn't exist. Also, this is a good point. Any worldview that doesn't explain everything without need for evidence wildcard would automatically be coherent. Yep. And this one. How could something be inconsistent if it doesn't exist? All good points. So let's watch him talk to this guy. And Sasha is very good at like keeping his, like, he's just kind of icy throughout this whole thing. So this is some good work. Although if I had been around and heard him do this, I probably would have stomped on it and gotten myself kicked out. Sasha, to his credit, and I'm not really giving anything away, he does not get kicked from this one, which is saying something.
Hold on a second. Suppose you only had one knife in your house, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I have more than that, though.
You have one knife in the house, okay?
Okay.
And I come in and I say, do you have a knife that I can cut the sandwich with? And you go, yeah, and you give it to me. And I say to you, is this your best knife?
Mm-hmm.
You would say,
yes,
it's the only knife.
The problem with this analogy is that I don't believe it from Darth. Like, I'm going to cut this sandwich with a knife. No, he's going to give that knife to his mom so that she can cut the crust off his sandwich for him. That's first of all. And secondly, I'm still trying to struggle with this idea. Like, something as mundane as like a knife or a tool or something like that, if you've only got the one, right? Like, I don't understand where he's going with this. And I think even he struggles with it a bit.
I'd say it's the best knife.
No, it couldn't be best, because in order for there to be best, there have to be others.
Wait, so
Okay, but there are better knives, and just to play into this like semantic game with it, if it's the only one, then it would also be the best, because there isn't anything else to compare it to. This is something that I think Darth has a problem with when he starts throwing around a term like ultimate. Ultimate is also a comparative word, right? Like you could think of something as being it's an ultimate representation of, like, the world's fastest car. It's the ultimate car in terms of speed. Until we come up with a faster car. Now that's the ultimate representation of speed.
You think that Christianity is not the best worldview?
You're not getting this about the knife, okay?
No, Darth, you're not getting it about the knife. You didn't even get it. I think at this point, Darth knows that he misspoke. He should not have said that other worldviews don't exist and they're incoherent, right? It would have been better if he had said, those other worldviews don't exist, and if they did, they wouldn't be coherent, right? But the problem with both of those statements is ultimately he's revealing something about this little apologetic when he's asking other people for their worldview. I tried to do this with him a couple of years ago, I think. I tried to use this technique, and it ticked him off. He asked for, what's your worldview? And I said, well, it seems like there's only the one worldview, so it's the same one as yours. And he didn't no, what's your worldview? What's your, so I don't think Darth understands exactly what a worldview means. Like, he wants to know what your opinion is on stuff, and then he wants to know, and then he might be kind of asking you, like, saying worldview in the sense of perspective, but then he will then load up a question with a bunch of metaphysical, and I'll use his word, gobbledygook, and then ask you how did you rationalize your way to all the stuff that he just listed. All you have to do is say that you didn't, because most of the stuff that he mentioned you probably never thought of. And if you're saying you didn't, and intelligent, you probably didn't think of anything like that. But let's say that you did, even came close to getting to some of it. That still doesn't constitute an entire worldview. And if the whole point of asking you what your worldview is just to get you to, is some kind of a weird way of getting you to eventually admit in this interrogation scheme that there isn't another worldview other than Christianity, then he is implicitly acknowledging that what he's engaged in is sophistry, and a kind of a deceitful version of it, because he's asking questions he knows the answers to, and he's trying to get you to the answer he's looking for. He needs you to realize this. He doesn't like it when somebody compares it like that, because then it makes him seem like he doesn't like having that aspersion cast on him where he, don't you dare call me dishonest or deceitful. But this is a little bit deceitful. Especially since in this case, he's either struggling to understand the presuppositional apologetic, which is, I've argued this, the presuppositional apologetic is not about, there's two different versions of it. And sort of the Van Til version, the Christian worldview is designed around the idea that you are starting every approach that you make when you start thinking from the idea of God, right? That's the Christian perspective, right? Everything comes from God. Everything depends on God. That's sort of the whole point of it. Now, when it got weaponized later by other people, Greg Bonson and others, and some of the more obnoxious types that took it and tried to like turn it into this thing, it started becoming this exclusive, this exclusivity thing, the super cool rhetorical trick where there isn't another worldview possible. But then these guys built these scripts where they were asking other people what their worldview was, and when those people would say what their worldview was or start to describe it, that person would then accuse the theist would accuse the skeptic or believer in another religion of being incoherent, of being unintelligible even. That was when it got worse. They might as well be stringing nonsensical words together in ways that don't make any kind of grammatical or syntactical sense. It got that bad. This was just 7-8 years ago. And just 7-8 years ago. God, I'm old. Anyway, so Darth here seems to be kind of at a weird crossroads here. Which one is it? There aren't any other worldviews, or there are other worldviews, they just all suck. Christianity is the only one that's viable, because he seems to want to like push back on this notion that Sasha said the Christian worldview is the best, and I really don't understand why Darth Dawkins is motivated to like push back on that, but he is, and here we are.
Something is only best in comparison to others. Okay, when there are no other knives, it's not your best knife; it's your only knife.
Oh, okay, I understand. But are you saying that there are no other worldviews?
There aren't. Well, the other worldviews are fiction and incoherent.
Yeah, but
they're fiction and incoherent. I wonder if Darth likes to double up descriptions. He does this quite often, and I wonder if he thinks that all fiction is incoherent. It's just that I'm curious about it now, especially.
They are something if they have properties, right? Like they're incoherent and fictional, so they have properties. They have to like exist.
Now that's pretty well done. He's saying, well, they must exist if they're fiction and they're incoherent. He's just conceding Darth Dawkins' descriptions of them. If they have those things, they must exist in some sense.
In some way,
yeah, they're fictional properties.
This doesn't make they're fictional properties. That doesn't make any sense. This thing is being described as having properties, therefore it exists in some sense. The fact that those fictional properties doesn't even really track with what the Sasha guy is going for.
Sure, but like when you say Sherlock Holmes is a fictional story, that's still saying that like something exists. Because if it didn't exist, we couldn't predicate on it. Right?
It's just an idea. It's not. It's not. Those properties aren't actualized. So the point is.
So this is the thing that I wonder about. Does he think that ideas don't exist? Because this is key. Knowledge for him and truth is what conforms to the mind of God. So ontological reality is God's idea. But he's saying these things as ideas don't exist.
The Christian worldview is the only true worldview, and the one that is the only one that is coherent.
See, he started with that. He started with that before. It's the only coherent worldview. And then when he went on just a few seconds longer, he then said, those other worldviews don't exist and are incoherent. He doesn't have a good grasp on this.
No, but I'm just saying that for us to be predicating something of anything, it has to exist in some sense, right?
We're talking about actuality, sir. Okay.
You're actually talking about both, Darth. And one of the problems that he seems to have is that unless it's actually existing, it's not real and not true. People have asked him about this before. Can you only believe in things that are true? Are the only things that are true real? He seems to have a weird take on this kind of notion of like dealing with like abstract things. And there are a whole like philosophical things that kind of get into like whether or not things like ideas or abstract concepts exist and in what sense and all that other kind of stuff. But for the purposes of actually discussing it in this case, like the example that Sasha brought up with like Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes isn't a real person, but the books that contain those stories are real items. Those stories are real in the sense that those stories exist as stories in the actual world. Now, how they exist as far as like a product of the mind or a product of the imagination, that you could get into you could dive down a deep rabbit hole with that one. But Darth is on the verge of making commitments, I think, to some things philosophically that I don't think he'd be very comfortable sticking to. But it won't matter because I don't think he won't commit to them anyway.
We're not talking about imagination.
No, I understand that. I'm making a trivial point.
But even when you are talking about imagination, that is an important distinction to make. Does an idea exist, at least in some sense? Darth would say that a worldview without God is, quote, a bad idea. I've heard him use those phrases, those words before. So he can attribute the property of bad, quote unquote, to an idea or to a worldview, and then turn around and say it doesn't exist. It seems like he's trying to have it both ways.
Point in that if something has a property, it has to exist, right?
Well, and in what form does it exist? Does it exist as a form as a thought, or is it actually ontologically instantiated?
This is odd too, because this is one of the things that I don't think Darth really clues in on. And a lot of older theists, even really younger theists, seem to have an issue with the idea that they're still operating with this medieval mentality that thoughts aren't like physical things, and they're not. But thoughts are physically produced. The more that we know about the science of the brain, we know that thoughts are a byproduct of the physical workings of the brain. Your ability to generate ideas and think about things and comprehend things and even picture things requires your brain working and actually uses actual fuel. It's not something happening at some metaphysical level that is just part of some soul dimension and it doesn't have anything to do with it. Your body uses, you actually use glucose when your brain works and comes up with ideas. So the notion that you can still entertain the idea that a thought is somehow ephemeral in this kind of non-physical thing, but the thinking is a physical thing.
It could just exist like as a sentence or a thought.
Okay,
Like
well, the other worldviews are not coherent because there's no grounding to them. There's no rhyme or reason why anything is.
Yeah, but they still exist, right?
See, this is where he starts. This gets even stranger yet. Like, he's big on the idea that they're not grounded in anything, but consider the fact that he believes that what grounds all of reality is that which conforms to God's mind. Right? That's part of morality and truth and knowledge. It was willed into existence by an eternal, timeless mind.
Yeah, you know what? You're extremely obtuse. That's why I realize now why it was so difficult for the other gentleman to talk with you. They only exist as a fictional belief.
Yes.
But they still exist. Now, here's something that's odd about that. So if he's gotten to a point where he's willing to consider that maybe worldviews exist as fictional things, as stories, who's to say that his worldview... Well, actually, before you even get to that, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious where you're going to go. Who's to say that his worldview, Christianity, isn't fictional as well? But the weird thing about this is that he seems to be carrying around the idea that if it's fictional, it's incoherent. And that's odd. I don't think that Sasha actually pushes back on that enough, but I would be interested in hearing what Darth Dawkins has to say in terms of that, because he seems to think like, well, if Sherlock Holmes is a story and it's made up, it's incoherent. That doesn't follow. You can tell a lie to someone that is completely incoherent, but it doesn't actually represent the actual state of affairs in the world around us. But within itself, it's a coherent deception. So,
and when we examine that fictional belief, they're not internally coherent.
Yes.
So what's your world?
And see, Sasha kind of missed the point there. He's like, they're not internally coherent. Most of what happens, like, I mean, unless there's plot holes or things like that, you can say that's part of like literary criticism. You can find things in stories where the author or authors messed up, where something doesn't follow the other. But if you find stories where for the most part, stories are relatively coherent. If they're the less coherent they are, the less appealing those stories are. Coherent stories are the ones we tend to be drawn to, no matter how fanciful.
Worldview.
I thought we were talking about the other thing.
Okay. We were talking about the Christian worldview. So do you accept the Christian worldview?
No.
Good. Well, then what is your worldview?
And then he goes, what's your worldview? Well, I don't think that there are any other worldviews anymore, right? According to Darth. Or is he willing to now say, oh, okay, what's your worldview? Well, it wouldn't matter now. I don't even know why he's asking him. He's already asked him, do you accept the Christian worldview? No. Why ask him what his other worldview is? Any other worldview is, according to Darth, quote unquote, incoherent fiction. This is a waste of time.
You're asking me for like some things, I believe.
What is your worldview?
I don't know what you're asking me.
What is your worldview?
This is what, see, at this point, if Darth Dawkins ever tries to duck on the idea of, oh, for God's sake, another ad. Curse you, Tom, and your monetized channel. Anyway, this notion that that he's not somehow engaging in sophistry. He's asking this question deliberately in the same tone of voice, just to like get this guy. Again, I would ask Darth Dawkins, especially if he watches my video, the hell are you doing? You, if you're following your own conversation, and I kind of wish Sasha had pushed back on this more. There's no purpose in you asking this question because he already answered the most important one for you. He doesn't accept the Christian worldview. Therefore, whatever his worldview happens to be, whatever he calls it or whatever he describes it, you've already admitted that for you, or objectively, what you also believe is objective reality, is false, incoherent, and or doesn't exist at all.
I don't know what you're asking me.
You don't know what a worldview is?
Dispense supplements virtually on one platform.
I think it's like a set of the propositions you believe. But I'm not going to list all of them here, right?
Okay.
So it's going to
Okay.
be like
Does
really long.
your worldview include that there is a creator-creature distinction, that what is foundational and fundamental to all temporal states is an eternal mind, God? Does your worldview
No.
include that?
No.
Okay, good. Then your worldview is you're an atheist.
Oh, okay.
I like how he just goes along with this. Oh, okay, whatever. You can be a non-Christian and a non-theist and believe in a creator-creature distinction. I don't know if Darth's aware of this, but it can happen.
Thank you for that.
You know, for somebody who wants to step up to the plate, that you're dealing intelligently, you're not doing so well.
Okay.
Well, the great thing for Sasha is that Darth isn't doing very good either, and what he's offered so far has actually been some of the worst stuff I've ever heard him say. Like, this is some profoundly stupid stuff. I shouldn't say profoundly stupid, but this is very sloppy, and I don't know. Maybe this guy is too calm for him, and he's just being sloppy. But whatever.
And how many?
Yeah, this is a good point. Here come the ad homs. Exactly. This is when he's either getting tired or, he's filled his diaper and he needs to change it, or whatever. But, once he has to start making it personal, that's a way to like keep whoever he's talking to at a distance. Because I think at this point, like, because he's been peppering him in here pretty intermittently, because I think he knows he fucked up a little bit. This has not been good for Darth.
People I ask that question on a daily basis on Discord, and you're one of the rare individuals who have trouble answering it.
Yeah, but at this point, like, consider like the lack of self-awareness here. He's already asked this question like 4 different ways, and at least 2 or 3 different ways, Sasha has already answered it. When he asked him if he accepted the Christian worldview, and Sasha said no, he doesn't need to know what his alternate worldview is, because what's the kid gonna say? He can literally say anything other than the Christian worldview. He knows that Darth is going to say that worldview either A, doesn't exist, also, well, that's my favorite, it doesn't exist, and it's incoherent. That's what he said at the beginning, and really what he's tried to go on and what he's tried to elaborate hasn't really made much better sense out of the whole thing.
I mean, I don't know, like, couldn't I have just answered the Platonist? Like, that sounds like a good answer, but atheism doesn't encompass that, right?
Okay. Is your worldview that of the creator-creature distinction? Either it is or it isn't. Good. Then you're an atheist.
But you could deal with somebody who wasn't a Christian, and remember, if you're not a Christian, you don't have the Christian worldview. Your worldview doesn't count, but your worldview does have a creator-creature distinction. You believe that all of nature is subject to itself. That we as human beings, we are subject to the awesome power of nature, and we should keep that in mind. And we should be, we should act accordingly. That's kind of a creator-creature distinction. There are people that believe that, and they don't believe in gods.
Yeah, but like, when you're asking like, what's your worldview? I could say I'm a Platonist. What is it going to tell you about like whether I'm an atheist or
not? Then that would not be a sufficient descriptor then.
No, but like, why not just ask me if I'm an atheist?
That's a great question from Sasha. Why not just ask me if I'm an atheist? Why all the fucking around? Again, this is like old man that just asked you a bunch of different ways what your worldview is, got the answer, and then asked you 3 times in a row, what's your worldview? What's your worldview? What's your worldview? As if you hadn't already been around the block with that.
Dude, you know what? We have an English word for people like you. Okay, it's pronounced prick.
Okay.
This seemingly comes out of nowhere. This is one of the things, like, when I love it when like his fanboys and stuff, like some of the guys like Barthology and some of these guys that like cling to him, and these other things, they're just like, well, I don't think you understand his style. I understand exactly what his style is. Abusive uncle. That's kind of what this guy is. Like, this is the relative at the party or at Thanksgiving that the kids realize real quickly that you stay away from, and you learn how to like just kind of flatter his ego just enough so he doesn't take a swing at you or take something from you or say something fucking horrible about you to your parents. That kind of relative. And the guys that sort of gravitate towards this, I think that's familiar for them, so they get it. Anyway, but the fact that he's got to project onto Sasha, you know what you are? You're a prick. Why is he even insulting him? Like, this doesn't make any sense. If there's only one worldview that you can accept in order to be accepted, according to Darth Dawkins, that's the quote-unquote Christian worldview. There's nothing that he can say at this point that's going to satisfy what Dawkins is asking, right? Other than to repeat an answer that already gives him the information he's already got, and he's calling this guy a prick. This doesn't make sense.
I mean, I just don't understand. Like, the question seems very unspecific to me.
I'm curious. How old are you?
22.
Okay. Why am I not surprised?
Because you expected it.
No, you're 20 going on 14. You're an obnoxious, argumentative individual.
I'm not argumentative. What?
Oh, you most certainly are. It's painfully obvious. Dude, I do this every single day. I've been on the internet for 10 years, debating and dialoguing with people from different worldviews. And I tell you, you get
Sasha's argumentative. Darth Dawkins, this is why he's a lolskull, folks. He's got, at this point, this is like D. Roy Cruz, Jesus is Lord, rebuke and reprove, praise, or Smokey Saint. This kind of level of just detached from reality, incapable of recognizing your own foibles. He accuses this guy, who I think you could make the claim he was being a little passive aggressive in the beginning, but good on him. He accuses him of being argumentative, and then says, I've been on this 10 years. I do this every day. If you're on Discord debating people from different worldviews about what they believe and doing this shtick, you are by definition an argumentative person. That's what he is. And yet he accuses everyone else of being argumentative because they won't just roll over and accept, and let him declare victory that, his presuppositional apologetic, his particular approach to it, by the way, there are slight variations, but his is the best way, the only way. It's the biblical way.
Get a gold medal for being a prick.
Okay.
See, now I don't think Darth should be handing out gold medals for people being pricks when he is definitively, because there's lots of pricks in the world, unlike the knife in his example, lots of different pricks. And Darth might be the best prick in the sense that he's an obnoxious asshole, not in this other sense.
Okay.
But you're probably so accustomed to doing it that you either have a sense of satisfaction, enjoyment out of it, or you're just simply not aware that you're being a prick.
There we go. Sasha might as well not even be in the room at this point. Darth is talking into a mirror.
Okay.
Well, I wish I could stay and continue to chat. I have to run an errand, but hopefully I'll be back shortly.
Hopefully.
I have to run an errand.
I was being very
I have to run an errand. Yeah, he's got to swap out that depends, folks.
very argumentative there. Just saying okay to like all the things he said. Oh my god.
Stop being argumentative.
That was awesome. Like I wish someone would have added me or let me know that you were talking to Darth. I was like,
Wait, who was just talking to Darth? Who was just talking to Darth?
bro,
Josh,
bro,
don't tell
someone has
What's
to
his name?
Like the Barthology guy comes in there and like, wait, who? Like with the Jersey accent or wherever he's from. I'm pretty sure he's from Jersey. Who was talking to him? Like, did you just get here? Like, what the? Like, I don't know. I don't know how that worked out, but yeah. So another classic performance from Darth. There is another video on here. There is a new one, and I'm wondering if I should watch this one. But it's not a Darth one. It's Tom asks Tone Loc if he would save a child or embryos. Tone Loc is one of Darth's most long-term like clinger-ons. Like he's just he seems to love Darth, and he usually goes by, well, like you can see in here the little supreme pro-life debater, that's him. He usually also goes by the username abortion is murder, period, abortion is murder, debate me bro, stuff like that. But there was one there was another one that had popped up a day or so ago that I might as well get into it now. Let's see. Tom asked Tone Loc if he would. Oh, that's 30 minutes long. That might take a little bit. That might take a little bit of time. Let's see. There's the one that he did about 3 days ago where had a fan named Diesel. I don't know if Diesel was like screwing with him or what. I don't know if anybody's interested in watching this one. Darth Dawkins versus John, round 2. Darth is triggered by overpopulation. This one's a little bit more. This one's a little bit more political. It's only 8 minutes long, though. I think I might do this one. Let's give this one a shot and see what's going on here. All right, here we go.
I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit.
And now we're in a point where a lot of people are going to not, like, a lot of lineages are about to go extinct. And a lot of people are aware of this. A big solution to overpopulation is pretty much allowing this to take place, where we're not reproducing as much.
What overpopulation?
He was attacking the idea of thinking that's a meaningful thing.
What overpopulation? What overpopulation?
What overpopulation?
Yeah, what overpopulation? Is my mic working?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there isn't any overpopulation really, but I mean,
what overpopulation?
In certain places.
What overpopulation? See, notice he's gone dead silent. See, this is what you do when you catch bullshitters in the.
Like he just assumes that this guy's run away. Like that. I love how he does this. This has happened several times in Tom Rabbit videos. He'll just be like, oh, this is what they do. They run away and somebody's like, oh yeah, my mic died or I had to switch out my headset or something like that. And they come right back. Like it seems to happen more often than not that he jumps to the conclusion that they have fled from him. And really all they've done is like swap out a microphone, or they muted themselves because they were, taking a drink of water or something. Or if they're getting ready to talk to him, taking a shot of vodka.
In the midst of their bullshitting. Okay. There are places that are more densely populated that have a high standard of living versus other places. For example, certain parts of the United States in certain locales are more densely populated than parts of India or Japan. So where's this overpopulation?
I think that I mean,
the point of overpopulation is not simply about raw numbers or where people can actually like be physically put. It's about resource usage and waste production. That's predominantly what the concern is. If you've got lots of people, those people need shelter, they need heat, they need food, they need clean water, and they need sanitation services. They need places where everybody poops, and that poop needs a place to go. And you can actually have it where you have so many people where people need more water than you're capable of filtering and cleaning and processing and delivering. I mean, we're not there yet by any extent of that, but some of the stuff that we're experiencing now with climate change is based on the fact that we are converting carbon into gas, pumping it into the air, and it's changing the climate. And a large part of that is based on more people consuming more things like individual automobiles. Although I think the statistic is if 30% of people just stopped driving, or if 100% of all people on the planet quit driving and quit contributing to that portion of it, that would only contribute 30%, a 30% drop in the total amount of pollution. And then the rest of that 70% is made up by something like 11 corporations, 11 industries. So, yeah. But I mean, overpopulation can be potentially a problem. And when we have this many people on the planet, and many of them are shooting to have the same kind of lifestyle that the Western world enjoys and parts of the Eastern world enjoy, you're going to have a lot of consumption and a lot of waste. And we're already feeling the effects of that, and we're seeing the problems of that. Look at the amount of plastic waste that we have. Anyway, I'll stop.
I was trying to move away from it like 100 times. You know, Bath was even taking the mix, and it was like incel radio.
This is a part of a satanic deception that started in the 1970s. You can even look this up. There was a professor who wrote a book called The Population Bomb or Explosion. Okay. This myth lingers to this day. This is why the leftists and the atheists are so orgasmic about killing unborn babies, because they have this.
The thing that he's talking about is actually, it's from Paul Ehrlich. And there are other people that talked about these kinds of things. One of the things, ironically, that has pushed back against that, some of the mechanisms that they were predicting about, some of the doomsaying that we were going to reach a kind of, if you've seen movies from even the late 70s, early 80s, they did movies like this. Soylent Green is a great example of one. Charlton Heston movie where the world is, I think it's based in like 1990 something or whatever, but the world has reached this kind of just overpopulation point, and people are living on like saltines and margarine, and Soylent Green becomes this like feed that you can feed to people. And if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler, Soylent Green is people. So they're just recycling the dead back to each other. But with this, Paul Ehrlich's predictions, though, and other predictions like this were actually held back because what they found out was that with increased literacy and access to things like birth control, the more prosperous countries become, the fewer children they tend to have. And so you'd get some countries where they would just have a replacement rate, or they would actually start to see a reduction in their total population. And there's whole population studies about this, population graphs and everything. So Darth doesn't seem to really know about this. He's just citing a book that was proven wrong from 35 years ago or whatever, and is saying, well, okay, this guy was debunked. His predictions didn't come true when he said they were supposed to happen. So nothing to see here, nothing to worry about.
This belief that the Earth is overpopulated. Okay, because there are, in various parts of the world, there might be some hunger or lower standards of living. The problem isn't too many people.
Yeah, exactly. Like Japan. Japan's actually a situation where they have a very old population. Italy is very similar, and so they have a population cone where they have a large cohort of people who are going to be dying off, and then about the population is probably going to have itself by 2050. 2045, somewhere around there. And Italy, I think, is on track to kind of do the same thing. There aren't a lot of other Western countries that have experienced that exact same kind of demographic trend. The concern now, though, from certain things, from some of these, like, climatologists and anthropologists, is the idea of population booms in places where there's already a lot of people, China and India, and the math is pretty disturbing. Like, it doesn't take much for a population of humans that we have to, it's called exponential growth for a reason. So you'd actually have to have a lot more Japans in order to kind of like balance that out, and the numbers don't go in that direction.
The problem is we have bad religions and bad governments that are bringing this about. It's because of corruption and bad governments, and in places like India where they worship cows.
I don't know why I'm surprised, but when he says something this obviously ignorant, I'm just like, what the hell is he talking about? Cows are sacred, not worshipped. There's a difference. Like, dude, get out of your mom's basement and maybe take a look around at the world. It's not all. Oh, man, I guess everything, like the world peaked with Florida for Darth Dawkins.
Problem isn't that there isn't too many people. Notice, yeah. So I'm waiting, John. What overpopulation? See, silence.
It's so ridiculous, honestly. I mean,
How's it
this
going?
guy's been talking for time.
Yeah, go ahead, John. What overpopulation?
About nonsense, honestly. And then he's
like, not Fox, who is a devout supporter of Darth Dawkins, is trying to say something, and as soon as Darth Dawkins hears John's voice, he is immediately like, "What overpopulation? What overpopulation?" Like, immediately, he doesn't give a shit what not Fox is talking about. Doesn't care. It's like he wants to go right back on the attack again. The Snapchat. yeah. Social media.
John, what overpopulation?
Not Fox. I was working the room. Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
John, do you know that you can fit every person in the on the planet within less of the geographical area of half the? I won't say half. It's probably a bit more than that. But you can fit every single person into the city limits of Jacksonville, Florida. Every person on this planet.
Yeah, if you stand them up shoulder to shoulder, it's not about where they're physically put. This isn't like, I mean, if you stack people like cordwood, yes, you can make a lot of room. That's not the point. I've heard conservative commentators use this kind of point, try to use this on environmentalists and other people that, the sociologists that talk about these kinds of issues. And it's absolutely ridiculous. You cannot take the world's population, stick them in Jacksonville, Florida, and expect them to live in any kind of remotely healthy fashion. That would not be sustainable in the slightest. Can you cram a bunch of people into a clown car? Yes. Should you do that? No. Outside of a photo op, no.
Yeah, do you know how much wide open space there is?
Resources.
There's a lot of wide open space. The reason that overpopulation is a concern is because a lot of this planet is not habitable. We have mountain ranges that we do not have the capacity. I mean, we can try to live in them, but they will take lots of resources in order to make them safe. And resource consumption is already a problem. It's one of the reasons why climate change is so disastrous, not necessarily to the planet. The planet will survive. It's disastrous for us. We tend to do well along riverways and coasts. And those are a lot of the areas that we're screwing up.
Darth, can you comprehend what that might mean? Like, there's a limited
John, I asked you a question. I asked you a question. What overpopulation, John?
Hey, man, Jesus Christ, I just asked you a question first.
John, I came in the room. I asked you a question first. Listen, hey, John, either you're really an intellectual or you're a fake, a phony, and a fraud. Now, I asked you a question. What overpopulation, John?
There's a limited number of resources.
Where'd you get that from?
You think there's an unlimited number of resources?
There's a limited number. Where'd you get that from? What? Like, do you not think that our resources are finite? Like, oh my God.
No. What
are you talking about?
To the population, we have an abundance of coal. We have an abundance of natural gas. There's an abundance of oil.
It's still limited, Darth. You fuck.
Again. First of all, how do you know as time goes on, new technology?
I want to point out something. John just slipped this in there. He just calls him a fuck, and it just goes over Darth Dawkins like water across the duck's back. Like, nothing, right? He doesn't even. It's weird. There have been people that he has flipped out and gotten triggered on over people just saying that you lied to me, Darth, or you were dishonest, and he'll just rage and kick him and mute, whatever. This guy just called him a fuck. Like, I think if you talk to Darth Dawkins, like he expects somebody to like, get into his face at like a corner deli in Jersey. I think that's probably a better way to go. I think it's these people that are trying to like come up with answers that I'm trying to be safe in the way I answer. That's the stuff that ticks him off. If he asks you a question, just come right at him, just punch him right in the face, and then or cut him, and then rub some gabagool in there, really get that wound stinging, and then tell him, "Shut up, fuck face." I know where your mom lives.
Technologies won't make more resources available. The
Well, how
fact
do
of
you
the matter
know?
is this,
as
John, let's have a fucking conversation. Don't be a dumb pothead your whole life.
John's actually not sounding like a dumb pothead, Darth. You are sounding like a college fraternity young Republican, the kind of conservative that doesn't think that humans can actually do anything to fuck up their own environment, which makes no sense. If you really thought that, then you wouldn't really have a problem with hippies doing the things that they do. But these would be the same dickheads like Darth Dawkins that will talk about the environmental fallout of something like Woodstock, right? Or like Coachella or Burning Man. They'll do this. They'll point like, look at all the stuff that they did. These hypocrites. Look at the impact. I'm like, don't fucking do that shit. All right. The issue here isn't about individual people doing this kind of stuff. And Dawkins has a real problem with this. The idea of resource extraction. He's trying to shift it. It's not about there's too many people. We have plenty of resources. And for some reason, he thinks it's unbelievable to concede the idea that those resources might be limited. And then he starts giving an example of the ones that we have plenty of, and it gets funnier.
If what if, right?
John, listen, quit talking again and you're going to be server muted.
I'm not entertaining what ifs.
John, in the 1970s.
I apologize, Barney. This topic is generally not great for my mental health either. Environmental stuff usually does make me quite anxious. And what makes me even more anxious is listening to this idiot, because there's way too many of these guys in this country who talk this shit and believe this stuff. And they're not all living in the mama's basement in Florida. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys are running oil companies and shit, and aren't much brighter, definitely just as obstinate, just as blinkered. So yeah, I guess I should put a trigger warning on this one before we got into it, because it's actually starting to trigger me. Goddamn, I hate Darth.
President Jimmy Carter.
Oh God, the Jimmy Carter argument. Here we go. I might speed this one up to 1.5. This is also another stupid argument.
Said in 20 to 30 years, we will completely run out of oil. Okay? Now, he was the leader of the free world, the president of the United States. And there was an Arab oil embargo, which you probably, I don't know, how old are you, John? Were you alive then? Because I was.
I'm 26.
Okay, so you weren't even alive then. I was. There were gasoline lines. There was an Arab oil embargo. People were talking about, we're going to run out of oil. Okay, do you know we still have a glut of oil? We just have an unwillingness by certain parties that don't want to go out and use this resource. There's plenty of oil right now. There is no shortage of oil for the foreseeable future.
So there is a concept known as peak oil, and this was one of the issues that came up in the late 70s, and it's come up again since. The notion that you can run out of the capacity to get oil. So yeah, Carter gave an address where he was talking about how in 30 years or so we were going to run out of oil. That wasn't exactly true, but what was true about that was that given if you were going to try to be environmentally safe and be a good steward of the earth, like the Bible tells us we're supposed to, Darth, then you wouldn't go after you wouldn't use things like fracking and stuff like that to try to like squeeze every last ounce of fossil fuels out from under the ground just so that you can burn them and throw them up into the air where we all move around and live and breathe. This is a problem. Plus all that carbon then, as part of that process acidifies the ocean, and then we blow that up too. So awesome. The idea behind this is we probably should have left it there. We should have acted as if we were out of oil at around that 30-year mark. Probably should have acted. We should have started making preparations then. The only hope that we have now is probably, lots of sustainable energy. Hopefully that goes. And at this point, carbon sequestration. So yeah, there is lots of oil, but there's a ton of it and lots of natural gas in the suburban under Siberia. The problem is, one, it's extremely expensive to get to. Two, it would be very hard to make a profit off going after that particular research. And three, we shouldn't We've got, because going after that would probably release more methane, and methane, that's a big tipper. That one will knock some dominoes over that we cannot. That's something we can't put back in the box.
Sure, including alternative energy sources. So what the fuck are you talking about?
But alternative energy sources are not things that Darth Dawkins likes. I bet you anything he'd be one of these assholes that would complain about the sounds of those new windmills and stuff. I don't think they put them in Florida because I don't think they get a breeze down there, except during hurricanes. Sorry, too soon. Anyway, but there are plenty of people that I know living in my particular state. We have a section of our state that's actually a couple sections of our state just where windmills dot the landscape. And a lot of the locals do nothing but bitch about it. It's providing clean, renewable energy, and they hate it. They would rather get a carcinogenic fluid refined by a company that causes nothing but problems, pay lots of money for that so they can burn it. Your guess is as good as mine.
About?
It's a mixture. It's like overpopulation will become a problem because of a mixture of other problems, right?
You're omniscient?
Like, for example, I think you would acknowledge
you stop.
that
You
in the poor
stop.
communities right now,
Stop.
it's not going to encourage
Mute
all of
some
them
of
to
this or
produce
I'll mute it. Okay, now, notice now
Okay, so now he's going to go after John because, well, I'll let him play this out.
what you're talking
He's
about
flipping
is
out.
the future, okay? He wasn't talking about the future. He was saying the Earth is overpopulated now.
If you're going to realistically deal with the issue of overpopulation, you have to deal with it before you're technically overpopulated because of exponential population growth. You have to look at projections. So it's safe to say this, and this is something that if Darth had actually paid attention to some community college lectures, maybe he wouldn't be screaming stop, stop, stop at a much younger man on Discord in the middle of the night. This is not that hard to figure out. If you wait until you're overpopulated, it's over. That's not what you do. You don't wait until there's overpopulation and then get rid of it. You can actually technically get to a point where the population is going to be overpopulated because of you're one to two breeding cycles away, and it may be too late to do anything about it. This is not hard to find, Darth. You're on the internet all day. You can find this stuff if you look hard enough. Try to find it from somebody who's not a Christian.
Notice how these liars bait and switch, okay? Oh,
it's not a bait and switch. John, I don't think did a great job explaining it. He's not going to get a chance to explain it even if it occurs to him, because at this point, if I were him, I'd be super pissed. You're too big of a dum-dum to understand how this works. And if somebody did explain it to you the way I just explained it to my audience, you'd probably still start screaming, stop, 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 and then mute and kick.
we have limited resources. We don't have plenty of oil now. We have plenty of oil now. We just have an unwillingness, like, for example, by the leftists and the liberals and the commies in certain locales on this planet to go and get those resources. Okay? We have 800 years of available coal resources and natural gas
that we cannot afford to put into the environment. He does not understand things like you cannot afford to put that much carbon. If you use those resources, you are burning them and converting that carbon into a gas and throwing it into your atmosphere, which then circulates into the carbon cycle, and we don't have enough forest to sequester it all. That's the problem. You don't have enough trees to take that carbon back in, because on top of burning up lots of this stuff, pumping it into the air, we've been deforesting hugely. If you want evidence of that, Mr. Dawkins, if you're watching this, take a look at satellite footage of Madagascar over the past 30 years. Look at how much forest they have today versus what they had 30, 40 years ago. That's a more dramatic example because it's an isolated island, but you're seeing things like that in the global south. We need those trees. And one of the worst things about it, when they talked about rainforest deforestation, it was because they were actively taking the trees, burning that stretch so they get the carbon into the soil, but some of that carbon is released into the environment. So they've released a section of the forest that's a carbon sinkhole, converted it into a carbon outputter, and then grow crops that also require fertilizers and other things in order to keep everything growing. And they're not a carbon sink like the trees that were burned in order to create that fertile soil to grow them in. This is complicated and kind of nuanced, but it's not that hard. And for somebody who claims to have a worldview that's always correct, he should know this. God should have revealed this to him in a way that he would know for certain.
Okay. You see, you call these people on the carpet, and they just lie. Right? He goes from saying that the earth is overpopulated to it will be. Everybody see how you have to call out these atheists and these liberals and these socialists for their hot garbage?
So it's the atheists, the liberals, and the socialists. Cute. When people say things like this is how I know they're not operating either in good faith. They're just not thinking deeply. There are plenty of people who are atheists that are neither socialist nor they're not even liberals. This is just dumb. And there are plenty of people that actually are Christian that are heavily involved in environmental conservation. Don't believe that we should be using these resources that way because it goes against what God wants, what God commanded, to be good stewards of this earth. Darth, did you read that part of the Bible?
John is a known atheist entity who is a BSer for years on Discord. Anyway, I've got to run an errand. I'll be back later.
Diapers full.
But boy, John is such a BSer. What a BSer. He goes from stating the earth is overpopulated to it's going to be. And then when I say, how's the earth overpopulated? We have limited resources. Jimmy Carter in the 1960s. We're going to run out of oil in 35 years. Let's see. 1976 till now. Wow. How much time has elapsed?
So was it in the 60s or was it in the 70s, Darth? You just said Jimmy Carter in the 60s, and then it said 76 till now. And we are running out of those resources in the sense that we cannot get access to them safely. And when it came to carbon sources, we should not be burning that stuff. We should not be extracting fossil fuels any more than we would absolutely need to. And it turns out we probably don't absolutely have to. If we completely got off it, we'd probably have to do a combination of nuclear. Personally, I'm a big fan of thorium reactors. I think they're pretty cool, mostly because when they melt down, they don't explode. But anyway, and they made a plane, the military made a jet that flew off a thorium reactor. Unfortunately, it killed everyone who was involved in the test flight, but it worked. It still worked.
Since then, how much oil do we have now? Is there any unwillingness on the part of oil companies to explore and drill for new oil sites? No.
Actually, there is. In some cases, like Siberia that I mentioned, the companies will not go there unless they can get some kind of agreement with the government to hopefully offset the costs of their R&D, either research and development, exploration, and surveying. This is something that if Darth was paying attention to more of his conservative sources might actually pay attention to, because a popular fossil fuel industry talking point, a kind of apologetic, was oil companies really don't make that much in terms of profits because they have to spend so much money trying to find the next pool of oil to hoover up so that we can start burning it as quickly as possible. So which one is it, Darth? Are they're super eager to go out and find it all, or is it the case that they're actually they're so put upon because they have to do all this exploration? They got to really search for where the oil is, and it's just getting harder and harder to find it. That last part, that's actually true. And as long as it remains true, we probably should treat it as kind of a mixed blessing. If it's out of reach, we can't get it, and if we can't get it, we can't burn it, and we shouldn't.
Why would anyone want to invest in oil companies anymore if we're running out of oil? By the way,
yeah, his laugh really bothers me. God, especially when he's being that haughty and he just thinks I'm like, I just don't understand how stupid these people are. This guy votes, people. He votes. So if any of you aren't registered, I don't care who you vote for. Just vote for whoever he's not voting for, even if you hate that person. Anyway, I am going to. I think that's probably it for that. Let me throw in the invite thing here if anybody wants to come in and join. Anybody's got any questions or anything like that, or just wants to chat? Drop that in there. Yeah, but I did pull up the transcript of Carter's address, and he did this several times. He got into several different things. He did one speech where he addressed the nation and said that Americans were materialistic and selfish or something like that. Interesting point to make to Darth Dawkins. Jimmy Carter was a devout Christian, raised a Baptist. So maybe don't trash on him so hard. Hello, Peter. What's going on?
Hey, I was enjoying the show.
So
I always love it when you go over Darth. It's
I don't usually get into like the environmental stuff, but with that one, and that one was, I mean, it was just it was like he was particularly obnoxious, especially started screaming, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You changed things up on me? Like, no.
What I don't get is that he equates overpopulation with us running out of fossil fuel. That is not the biggest problem. The problem is we need to eat, which is the bigger problem.
And we don't have an efficient food system as it is.
No.
So it's like, and then you talk about like I mean, that's like I said, like you can get to a part where you can have those areas, and this does exist in places like India where you have too many people in an area with insufficient infrastructure for just basic sanitation. So you have to deal with like, you can cram everybody into Jacksonville, but most of them will only live to be 30 years old if they're lucky. The rest of them are going to die from cellulitis and other bacterial infections and shit.
And there's one more thing, and I hope that someone who's going to talk to Darth in the near future is watching your channel. The moment he says, "How old are you?" and you then tell him his age, and he tells you, "I'm old enough to be your father," I want someone to reply to that with, "So what you're saying is your dementia has progressed a lot further than mine." Is that what you're saying? You're closer to getting senile than I am, and you're bragging about that? Really?
Yeah, I would put it to him. I want you to tell me your exact age first.
Yeah.
And if it's over 65, then I'm going to say that you're ready for the urn, buddy.
And I hadn't noticed, but this is your fault. I have that image in my head now. Diaper is full. Those errands. They bother me now because no one on the fucking planet has so many errands to do in one single day.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate to say it, but you might be right.
No, the proper answer to "I'm older than you" is "Okay, boomer." Thank you, Barney. Tony Bruns, if you're trying to come in, it's saying devices not connected. So I don't know if Peter, do you know if it gets like that? One time that happened and they was just stuck like that. Do I need to remove that or just leave it?
No. It can be that a StreamYard will hang on to that connection. Usually, if the person who has the problem, refreshing might help. Just refresh the page and you will be automatically taken back.
Okay, they must have done that because it dropped.
That there have been a couple of updates lately, and I've noticed that more and more people are having trouble joining a StreamYard hangout now. I had the same thing when it started out, and then they kind of fixed it, and it seems that they've made changes again that threw us back to when they first started.
Yeah, I knew it used to be super sensitive. Like if it suspected any problems with your webcam, it would throw things off, which it still does, as far as I know. So,
or if you had too many tabs open, and you usually have about 60 to 70 at a minimum.
Good Lord, man! How many monitors you running
on? 5.
Good Lord!
He's one of those people that likes to waste money.
Well, hold on. Servers, I got paid Saturday. I got a 4-figure sum from a Christian church.
Yeah, but you're over here making Jefferson get all sweaty and nervous, ruining the environment.
I'm happy as fuck. All I did was one drawing in Photoshop, and granted, I helped carry a few very big stones back and forth, but that was basically what I did. According to some of the Christians, I may have 4 eyes. I've been teased with that, but I ditched the frames of the separate 2 that were added after I was born. So
Yeah, what you do is you mess with their heads. You go, no, I have 3. One of them is fake. And then ask them to see if you can guess, and then walk away and just watch them try to stare at you the rest of the day.
Well, I have tried that. I have contacts that can see through clothes, and it surprisingly people fall for that bullshit.
Before I forget, Jefferson, if you want to give yourself more heart attacks, look up peak phosphorus.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I have not heard of that, but yeah, that
we only need it to grow food.
Oh God. This would be like, it would be like the things with like the bee. The thing that I find interesting about, because I remember somebody was like, it was giving me this thing, because my days going back, I didn't always used to be, such a lefty. Not, I mean, I do consider myself pretty left wing, but I don't consider myself a liberal. But I was pretty, hardcore to the right. Throughout most of my 20s, and so friends that I have are still kind of like that. And when I started getting concerned about like the bee thing, I'd bring this would come up in conversation. They're like, "Oh, who cares about the honeybee?" And I'm like, "I do. I like to eat. Like those things give us a shitload of food. I don't want those things to go away. We need to come up with like if we're going to kill them off, we need to come up with a replacement for them, some kind of cyborg alternative." Although there was an episode of Black Mirror about that, and that did not go well.
I literally had someone say, well, bacon doesn't grow on trees, so we don't need bees for that. No, you dumb fuck. What do you think a pig eats?
Pigs also like what bees produce.
You guys are trying way too hard. Just go, yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I'm smart enough to get by without all this extra food, but you're going to die, so have at it.
Welcome, Aristotle Providence and Troy Bruns. It looks like that problem got sorted for you. So,
how's it going?
StreamYard finally let you in.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
I watch you guys. I watch your streams a lot.
Oh, thanks.
Well, you got Fannin. I was just going to pick on him.
You're going to pick on Troy, or you're going to pick on me? I expect you to pick on me.
Aristotle.
Oh.
I was going to ask him if he just picked 2
pick
random $10 words and slapped them together to sound smart.
I could tell you how that happened. So a ways back, I used to be a teacher at a music school, and I had 100 students. And one of my parents contacted me one day. She found her daughter on some site on YouTube where the guy was a Sandy Hook denier. And he claimed that, and he had pictures of all my kids, and he had claimed that they were all Christ actors and they were all fake. They were the ones who played the kids who really didn't die at Sandy Hook. And I was like, what the fuck? So I go to him as myself. I said, hey, dude, because I was very naive to how this all worked. I said, hey, dude, listen, you got it all wrong. These kids are not nothing to do with that or whatever. Within minutes, like my court divorce documents were online. Like these people doxed me so hard. So I left. I deleted everything, and I talked to the guy who owns my school. We were like, what are we going to do? So we decided we'd troll him. And this is what I came up with to troll him. This was years ago. I've just kind of stuck with it. So there it is. But yeah, they are $10 words, huh?
I mean, it's better than mine.
Darth knows me. He knows who I am. He knows this name, and he sees me come in, and I've kind of got him a little bit fucked up in the head too, because he thinks that I'm not sure about my faith. That's the premise I've given him. And I'm not well versed in philosophy, but I was a fundamentalist for the majority of my life. I'm about 8 years out of the woods right now, and so there isn't anything he can say that I haven't heard before, except for his whack precept arguments. But I've been listening to Darth about 4 years now and talking to him about the same amount of time.
I also think that Sir Curb has nothing to talk about. His name literally is a clever way of spelling Care Bear as sex. Look, my twins here.
He's changed it, so now you were the only. Although the way that image looks with the hand and everything, I don't know. It kind of looks like the Collector from the Marvel universe, Benicio del Toro's character.
It is literally Germania's avatar with Otangelo's face in it, because Germania said that might be something that looked good, so I made that yesterday.
just to see.
And I made it Grasso Mania. So
what you're saying is Antangelo is your muse?
No. He seems to be Germania's muse. I don't know. But we can ask Otangelo. He's here.
Have we determined that Otangelo's like some wealthy landowner in Brazil or something? Is that the deal with him?
I think the joke started out as he was an escaped Nazi or his family.
Oh, that's not. That wasn't a joke.
Make it clear though. That's not his fault if it's true.
I looked at his channel. I think he is some kind of engineer who has no clue about loudspeakers. Then you have to have looked at his channel.
I have to say, since he's entered the room, but fucking woo.
Swinge. Wait, Peter, are you telling me I can't pull a Bart Simpson and just put a loudspeaker in front of a loudspeaker in front of a loudspeaker?
No, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. I do like Otangelo's choice of avatar.
It is a good avatar.
A wiener dog. I like it.
You got something against wiener dogs?
I
mean,
I think they're adorable.
They're not as delicious as actual, hot dogs.
As actual wieners? I don't know. I haven't given any guy oral sex lately, so I wouldn't know.
What?
I will say it's hard to find a bun big enough to put a wiener.
Hold
dog
on.
in.
I said oral sex, and now Otangelo's awake.
Oh, Peter, you know that today is my birthday.
It's your birthday?
Yeah.
Happy birthday
wait a minute.
to you.
If you're going to start having conversations with your own soundboard, Peter, I'm going to just kick you.
No, I don't have my soundboard.
Real quickly, I'm pretty sure the birthday song is still copyrighted.
Oh, that's right, it is.
Yeah. Well, let me be the first Otangelo to wish you an adequate birthday.
Yep. Adequate birthday. Feliz cumpleaños. So that's not trademarked, is it? I guess only if you put it to song.
He may speak Portuguese.
So
He's from Brazil.
in the words of the late great Darth Dawkins, Otangelo, how old are you?
Well, by my physical age or mentally?
Why is it even when I'm seriously talking to you and not trying to troll, why is it you always think that I am?
And that's the kind of clarifying question that would enrage Darth. These sneaky atheists in their deceitful ways. Yep.
Well, if you don't know my age, Peter, how old do you think I got today?
I think you're somewhere around my age. So I would guess second half of 50s. But
yeah, 55.
I was gonna say mid-50s, so yeah, that's
55.
I thought you were older. But that's probably the gray hair, and because I can't get gray hair. I'm going to be 60 next year and still not as gray as I would want to be.
By the time I'm that age, I won't have any hair left. Everything else will be gray.
So I grew my beard out a little bit because the woman wanted to see me with a beard, and I have like 30 gray hairs in my beard, so I just shaved it all.
Oh, my beard's almost all gray. My hair's going kind of gray, but the beard's already there.
I don't know. I haven't checked my pubic hair, but other than that, not a lot of gray.
Wait, you haven't checked your pubic hair?
whether or not it's gray. No,
Oh,
it's an area I pay little attention to. I have people for that.
I thought maybe you'd kept it shaved, like most guys keep their beard shaved, so you hadn't let it grow in, so you could check. Okay. Well, let me grow in this. Oh God, it's all gray.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this really a topic that we should be going to about me shaving my private parts? I mean,
or using just for men on you? Yeah.
Do you think you would get subs when
viewers are dropping now? I don't know. I did get the occasional good remarks from the fact that we kind of kept it lively after the last one I did, but I don't know. This one I probably won't keep on for as long. We'll probably wrap this up in a few minutes, but mostly because I got stuff to do before I turn in tonight.
I'm curious, and also like dumpster fires a little bit. So, Otangelo, you joined the stream where someone was coming at Darth Dawkins. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts was you guys have nothing to do, so you have to fill out your time and just bitch about Darth Dawkins.
How many live streams have you been on today, Otangelo?
Yeah.
How many live streams were you on yesterday?
No, this is my first today.
And also, when my last live chat was like over 2 weeks ago.
That's not true.
Over a week ago. When was it?
I mean, this is the equivalent of like water cooler talk right now.
Hold on, Speed, a couple of hours ago.
Darth Dawkins is a hobby. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, sort of like watching Game of Thrones, but
to be frank,
less sex, basically.
If I would be Darth Dawkins, I wouldn't see it as an honor, because
that's okay.
You guys just complain about what he does, and I don't think this is good.
You think I'm just?
I told you you're doing it right, because you shouldn't think it's an honor.
See, you don't really need to worry about if he thinks it's an honor or not, right? If you have someone that's a shitty human being on purpose, you don't really have to care about them a whole lot. Right? You can poke fun at them.
The reason I do these videos is because if you get into like the weird ass kind of like the sort of psychologically fucked up honey trap that he tries to set up, where he will deign to allow you into his Discord dungeon and then talk to you for a little bit, only to kick you and mute you and then try to bulldoze the conversation. So it's like, if he's going to silence me that way, he's not going to silence me permanently. I'm going to watch what he says to other people, and when I spot things that he says that I think are just gobsmackingly stupid, like worldviews don't exist and they're inconsistent, other worldviews don't exist and they're inconsistent, I'm going to point that out. So that's what I kind of dedicate my videos to.
Yeah, so you are confirming what I'm saying, basically.
No, because the rest of what you confirmed, the rest of what you tried to say was that we don't have anything else to do, which by extension neither do you, because you're in this group and I let you in. And then you tried to say that the only thing that I'm doing is complaining. But fair enough, if that's what you think is going on. Somebody could consider it.
This is my criticism to your side, but in regards of his side, if atheists wouldn't see anything to criticize him, then he wouldn't have all these streams of atheists talking about him.
Yeah, and most of them are dedicated to dealing with how he deals with people, and it's not even just a superficial thing. It's like part of this is substantive, which he revealed today. Like, he doesn't have a good grasp on what worldviews are. That was demonstrated in that exchange between him and Sasha. He does not have a grip on that. And I could tell that in conversations that he had with you, where he lost his cool with you, trying to debate, like he was getting ticked off at you, and I predicted this, where he's trying to like push you away from evidentialism and more towards, you just have to do things his way. You have to do precept 100% of the time. But then then I heard him in another debate, on another one of Tom Rabbit's videos from a week or so ago, where he told somebody, no, we can use evidentialism if we want, but precept is where it all dies. Like what the hell, Darth? Like anytime somebody like gets close to if you start trying to get close to him and start trying to like get informed off his opinion, like you did, he will find something. If other people think that you're a liability, he will find a way to cut you out and then stomp you into the ground. He did that with that Diesel guy too.
Now, what I think is fascinating is that you guys for months feel interested to criticize him. I went today into Discord and to listen to him, and I can barely listen to him anymore because he's repetitive. His shtick is always the same. He doesn't change his tune, and once you hear it for a week or two, then you know exactly the questions which he will ask an atheist and how he will deal with it. So
mostly, but he finds new ways to mess up, like he did these last couple of videos.
Well, look, I mean, some people.
I have to ask. Otangelo, do you know what the word irony means?
What?
The word irony.
Sure.
No, it just popped into my mind when you said that Darth was repetitive. I don't know why or how, but it did.
I mean, if you think that I'm repetitive, I give a shit about your opinion anyway.
See, and that's exactly what Darth would think about you, because I watched a conversation with you and Darth earlier. I have a serious question. This is not me trolling. This is an honest to God, your God, even serious question. If you have an argument and you come to the conclusion, can you then continue the argument after it has been concluded?
I don't know what you mean.
No, and that was the whole thing between you and Darth, because you had an argument and then came to the conclusion and then told Darth several times, but we can continue the argument. No, you can't. If you get to the conclusion, that's the conclusion. It was funny though. Jefferson, you should do that. Go look on Tom's channel.
I think I remember.
I think versus Otangelo on the Kalam cosmological argument.
I remember that one.
Can I share my comment that was on the Talk Heathen video that Otangelo was on yesterday? That's one of the highest rated remarks on there. I was breaking down Otangelo's argument, if you guys would like to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah, every single argument that Otangelo presents regarding abiogenesis boils down to the following. 1, an argument from ignorance. You don't have a fully fleshed out explanation, so I win. 2, a gish gallop of cherry-picked quotes and bad science. You'll know you've arrived at this portion of the argument when you hear ATP synthase to the power of nucleotides, etc. 3, an attack on induction that totally undercuts his position. He correctly asserts that we've never seen this life spontaneously start from non-life and ignores the fact that we've never seen a disembodied mind or have any means of describing how a disembodied mind can manipulate the material world. And wouldn't you know, the whole world seemed to agree with that.
Well, on that channel, sure. You're preaching to the choir. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's good. That's a good comment.
I thought that was a fairly good summary of how Otangelo operates. And everyone seemed to agree.
At least when it comes to your abiogenesis argument,
there were several things in there that I've talked to Otangelo about. Several. So I've noticed. But Otangelo, I don't want to be a hateful and spiteful guy, so I do have a small surprise for you.
What? What happened here? Oh no, Eddie. Are you kidding me? It's your birthday again? Oh, snap. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Okay, so there it is. Now I gotta do my thing. You do your thing. All right, I'll talk to you later on. Get up on out of here. Have some cake or something like that.
And many more.
Hey. Well, Peter, to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was expecting at least that you would play the Benny Hill song,
No. Why should I?
That would really...
That's not... Hold on. That is not my thing. That was between you and Speed. You got angry with me because I didn't know about that whole thing. I just think the song is funny. I had a funny video to go with that, a dog chasing a chicken, and I play that on speed stream. And then you got your knickers in a twist and told me to never contact you again. And you've done nothing but contact me ever since. So I don't get the whole thing with the Benny Hill song. I don't even care about the Benny Hill song. If it offends you, then okay, I'm fine with that. I don't care. It's not my thing. It's between you and Speed.
I think he's embracing the hate now.
Yeah, if you want to get offended,
he's trying to own it.
I mean, yeah, I don't see a problem.
And Speed's probably it's probably over for Speed. Although it was becoming kind of a trademark for him.
I mean, the funniest thing is that I've had Otangelo's back several times before that happened. And because of something that I wasn't aware of, I'm obviously now an asshole. And okay, so I'll act like one when you're around. I have no problem with that. But don't pretend that there was something that I did. You acted like a 5-year-old. We had a decent conversation. I came to you and asked you, Otangelo, if you have a problem with me, can we get that out of the way so we can have a decent conversation? That happened. And from then on, we could have decent conversations, even planned a show together. Remember? Because of something that I wasn't aware of, now suddenly I'm the bad guy. That makes you the intellectual equivalent of a toddler. And I will treat you as such until you apologize, and then we can see where we can get from there.
Well, Peter, you need to know that the thing about the age, that came from Darth Dawkins. And I applied it to you and said that you are a 15-year-old in an adult body. And now you want
That's not offensive to me. That's not offensive to me. And you know why it's not offensive to me? Because you're slightly off. You're slightly off.
And now you want to play the same game.
I still work.
And say the same thing to me.
Can I please finish? Can I finish, please? Thank you. I still work with children, and I do that voluntarily. And when you put me in a playground with a bunch of toddlers in the age between 6 and 10, I'll be between the age of 6 and 10. And I'm proud of that. That's why they like me, and that's why they like going places with me.
I'm the opposite. If you put me anywhere near young children, you can see me age like 30 extra years.
Nope. Yeah. I get stupid, and I get in all kinds of stupid shit along with the kids because I think it's funny. It's hilarious.
Well, hang on. I want to ask Otangelo a question because to get back into the Darth stuff. Otangelo, are you completely blocked by Darth? Has he blocked you?
No.
So you could talk to him if you wanted to.
Sure.
Okay.
So you're not in.
Invite him. Invite him.
So you're not feeling like you're a complete, total exile, which is why you might be here.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. I wondered if he had exiled you from wherever he's hanging out now.
I mean, I'm really not interested anymore to hang around there. That's the reason why I'm not there anymore. That's the true reason.
But you like us?
Yeah.
Well, I don't like Peter, but I mean, I'm here just to have a little bit fun here.
I'm hurt now. I'm ball hurt now.
Well,
don't do that.
But basically,
don't play that clip.
These videos are always
these videos are always
critiquing Tom Rabbit's Darth videos, right? So, Otangelo, why do you come here to watch these guys critique Darth's videos? Why?
Why don't you want to hang out with him? Yeah, you don't want to hang out with him, but you will still white knight for him.
Yeah,
How's
this
that?
does feel a little bit like white knighting because you came in here and said we don't have anything to do, we don't have anything going on. You haven't actually demonstrated whether or not you think that if any of my points were valid or not. You just complained about us, and by that I take it personally since you're on my broadcast, me doing stuff. So
Yes, I sincerely think, Jefferson, that you are void of meaning in your life, so you are making this stupid shit reviews of Darth
okay, so
stuff.
if my life is void of meaning and I'm making this stupid shit, what are you doing here?
I just came here actually to tell you exactly that.
Okay, so
thank you.
if I'm doing a hangout to tell Darth indirectly that that's basically how I feel about his arguments, basically you and I are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, because he just said that.
Do you really
he
think
just
that
criticized? He just criticized
Jeff,
Darth
do you
as well.
really think that he cares about your streams and your criticisms
He
about
doesn't
him?
even care about
Oh,
you.
man, you just
Yes.
set yourself up,
I
Angelo.
think he
Doesn't you
does.
think Jefferson cares?
Yeah, I really don't care about him.
I think you do.
Yes, you do, because you jump into a stream with atheists to come defend him. Of course you care about him.
Well,
of course you care about him.
I am not defending him. Okay.
Then why the fuck are you here?
Then what are you doing? Why are you just basically completely disrespected everything about not just this channel in particular, which I don't give a shit about, but you said my entire life is void of meaning.
Void of meaning. Holy shit.
Why are you doing that if not? You're doing this to someone who is critical of Darth Dawkins. Do you not see how someone like
that? Jeff, can I answer that question for you? Because
no,
you don't
you
have
cannot,
you don't
because
have a,
I would like to answer to that question.
I'll go first.
Shut up, Peter. I would like to answer to
Jefferson. You don't have a blog with all kinds of quotes from
don't have a blog
who have been quote mines, and you don't have a blog with all kinds of YouTube links to make your case when it comes to scientific evidence, and so you don't have that. And that's why you don't have a life.
That's true. Wait a minute. I thought having a blog means you don't have a life.
Yeah, it pretty much does.
My apologies, Bart.
That's not what I said.
And what's worse is if you're the only one going there posting links to that blog. Yeah, kind of begs the question.
I do like researching the information that's on Otangelo's blog. It always just leads back to Otangelo's blog.
I mean, Peter, look about how you spend your time by making.
Have you ever seen me post a link to one of my own videos?
By making
that.
I mean, I follow.
Have you ever seen me in a live stream promoting my own channel? Have you ever seen that?
I have followed a little bit your artwork, and look just about that one which you just did right now. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Okay.
Hang on. Otangelo, are you here to do anything other than? Hang on. Wait.
I have a better one.
Are you here to do anything other than to attempt to get under everyone's skin? Is that what you came here to do? Is just to lazily insult people?
Jeff, hold on. Look at this one, Otangelo. That's my artwork. That's in a Christian church. It was placed there last Saturday. It's an altar in a Christian church. I designed it. That's my artwork
because you make money.
And you know what? Otangelo? I find it fucking funny that there's an atheist altar in a Christian church, and it's going to be there for several hundred years. I hope that. I find funny.
Pretty amazing.
All these Christians coming up
and ironic.
an altar designed by an atheist. If that's not funny, I don't know what is.
So let me ask you, what was your intent or your purpose to make that image of me that mix between?
No, that wasn't. If you had listened, Otangelo, if you had listened, which you are incapable of, but I'll try again. If you had listened. This was a joke that Germania made. He said it would be nice to see your face in his avatar, because I made a Hitler face of his avatar, and he didn't like that one. So he said it would be better to have Otangelo's face there. And so that's what I did during the live stream. You can go watch it.
Yeah. So how futile is that?
By the way, welcome Jason Tom to the, to the
Hey,
panel.
Yeah, what's up?
So how
Jason
much
Tom,
time did you
excuse me.
spend doing that?
How much time?
Yeah.
3 minutes, I think.
Oh, okay. So
I
not
don't
much.
need
So
a
you
lot
didn't-
of time.
So you didn't
You
lose
want-
much time.
Hold on. Do you want a nude picture of yourself? I can do that. In 2
No, no, no. I know you can. Not only do I know you could do it, I know you can present it within minutes, and I don't want that.
Please
I
no.
mean, I'm just testing the waters. I mean, I take
Yes.
requests.
And the waters say no. Jason Torn, do you have anything to say?
I'm just listening. I haven't talked to Otangelo since we had our discussion, so I thought I'd pop on.
How long ago was that?
Which you ran away from? Which you ran away from?
I don't know. It was like couple weeks ago, something like that.
Okay.
But I know, Otangelo, you said we were saying that we were lying about you, or you sent me an email on that. Forget what you said exactly. That something about we were lying about. I forget what exactly you said. I've got the email. You said it's astonishing how you guys lie in order to support your position and to refute my arguments. But I don't think we were lying about you.
Well, yes, you
Hold on.
did. Why don't you
Can I
continue?
jump in and say that I watched that video
the rest
and
of
I
the email?
commented on that
I mean,
video.
keep going and read
Yes, I
what
will.
I wrote
Thank
in
you.
that email.
I did.
Please,
I did.
Jason. No, continue. It's not only that what I said. Why did I accuse you and Speed and
You said-
Leo of lying?
Because you say
read
I
the
will.
email. Go ahead.
It says at 52:30, Jason says in my argument, we don't have full knowledge of abiogenesis, therefore God. Or that's your argument. You're saying that I said, since we don't have full knowledge of abiogenesis, therefore God, that's your position. But essentially, you're saying if we're not able to provide sufficient evidence that can fully explain abiogenesis or
That's
how
not my
life
position.
occurred, that is what you could actually.
No,
I can
And I can back Jason. I can back that up because he literally
Shut up.
said that on
Hold
Speed
on,
Stream.
hold on, Peter.
I'm
Hold on,
talking to Jason.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Jason.
At points 38 minutes and 44 minutes of our discussion, you go on about how atheists know the origins of the universe, about how we know the origins of the universe, or how we know where physical laws came from. And if other scientists can't prove that full explanation, then somehow that is indirect evidence for God. And that's what we're saying, is that if we can't exactly say this is exactly how life occurred, then that's not any proof for God. That's just saying we don't
Not
know.
evidence, God.
That's not my position, and I explained.
That is exactly your position.
No, so you are lying.
that is your
right
position.
now.
I'm not. Go
Yes,
to
you are
38.
lying. You should feel
not lying.
ashamed, Jason. Why don't you read actually what I said in your stream? Go ahead. In my email, I
just gave you
explained
the time
what
for
I actually said in your stream. Why don't you read it? It is in the email.
Well, first of
what
all,
did,
I take
what
umbrage
did
with
I
you saying
say
lying.
in
Hang
your?
on,
You were lying. So
hang
why
on.
don't you just read
No,
now what I actually said during our conversation in your stream?
Otangelo, no. I'm calling this one quits now. You already asked him these questions. He's already read some of this. I no offense to Jason Tron, because I don't know if you're inclined to do this. He doesn't need to read this thing from beginning to end so that you guys can revisit this whole thing.
That's not what I'm asking. I ask you, Jason, to actually read what I said in our conversation in your stream. Go ahead, please read it.
I don't have my stream up. I'm just telling you when I looked at your
You
email.
have my email. Shut up, Peter. You have my email in front of you. So what I am actually saying there, it is in my email. Shut up, Peter.
You want to know about the
Shut
stream?
up, Peter. I'm talking
Okay,
to
I'm not
Jason now.
taking orders.
Why can you not shut up your mouth for 2 minutes, please?
Otangelo, if you keep going on like this, I'm going to kick you. Knock it off. You're on my fucking channel. Good. Get the fuck out of here. Peace.
What I wanted to point out, and which is why I think that everyone should go watch Jason's channel and watch the stream with Otangelo, is because for the most part, it was Otangelo grilling Jason on subjects that he had already said that he wasn't that knowledgeable about. That wasn't his field. He kept saying that. Otangelo kept bringing it back to those fields where Jason can't chime in to the fullest.
Yeah.
Then at the end, Jason turned the tables on him and started grilling Otangelo about his position. He started asking how God created and what methods God could use to create. Within minutes, Otangelo got mad at Jason and then left. Because
like he did just a few seconds ago.
Because he has no arguments. He has nothing in his position. He will demand evidence for abiogenesis, but he will flat out refuse to give evidence of how God could have created and whether or not there would be a method.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
Can you throw your the link to your channel in the private chat?
Yeah,
and I will...
definitely. Yeah, I'll do that.
Honestly, if you haven't seen Jason's conversation with Otangelo, go watch it. You'll learn literally in one conversation all there is to know about Otangelo. I thought it was a brilliant conversation. I really do.
Well, what I noticed about Otangelo is you use the same kind of precept thing that Darth uses, except in this somewhat calmer, more congenial way. But you still do that same thing where you say, well, if all facts are not, representative of God, then what ultimate is, right? And I'm always asking, well, why does there need to be an ultimate? And why do I need to know that? How could anyone know that?
He has another similarity that he has with Darth Dawkins. The moment he realizes that he's going to be outsmarted on whatever channel he is on, he gets angry. He starts insulting people. He starts screaming. He starts going off on very long tangents, and then he will leave. Or if you're on his channel, he will kick people.
I do want to point out that
he'll start saying things like atheists do this. This is what atheists do. He does that too.
Yeah.
And I was willing to have a reasonable conversation with Otangelo, and I told him that that I wanted to understand his position, and the topic was this issue of methodological naturalism versus theism, and which explains the world better. And this is where in the beginning of the video he talks about like not the ability of science to not know like the answers of the origins of the universe. And I'm like, well, we have pretty good evidence, but we don't know with absolute certainty that. And that's, he pounces on that. And he's like, well, if you don't know, then I think that's good evidence for a God. And I'm paraphrasing. And that's why I mentioned that, because he kept going back to that as being an argument for that.
You hear that?
It's an argument.
There's another thing why you. There's another thing why you should go watch the video on Jason's channel, because Jason picked up on something that I had suspected, but we didn't have any evidence for. And that is that Otangelo, in a conversation, needs to pull up all kinds of screens where his answers are. And on Jason's channel, that caused a problem because he turned green every single time he pulled something up. So his camera turned green every single time he was looking either on his blog or somewhere on the internet to answer a question that Jason had asked him. It is brilliant. You can literally see how often he does that.
Well, I've brought this up before, where it seems to be with Otangelo's, it becomes the burden shift. If you can't give him something that is that seems absolute or whatever he's holding to, then you should hold to whatever he believes in, because you can't give him a better alternative. And that's
it's basically like, I'm asserting something certain. What you got? Well, I've got this. It's not certain, but then that's bullshit. It doesn't match mine.
He has literally said that, and I think he said that to Jason in that stream as well. If you don't have a better answer than the one that I have now, why should I change my position?
Correct. Yeah, but this is a really good has a good relationship to Darth's positions, because Darth attacks like the naturalist positions of like, not how do you know that you can reason, but in reality he doesn't have any actually supportive evidence of his positions except for divine and special revelation. So it gets to which is a better worldview, a worldview where you're saying divine and special revelation are how I know where reason come from, or this other one, which one is more likely. And the same thing with Otangelo, he doesn't want to do that comparison. He wants to say, if you don't know fully, then you can't answer to mine, because mine I know absolutely. And that's the same thing that Darth does.
Except
I'm going to start using an absolute point. I'm going to start saying I do know absolutely. It's me. I'm the absolute ultimate. That's all I have. Thank you. You know, because
I want to point out that
let him ruminate on that.
Yeah, let them wrestle with it. I want to point out that this is something that I've noticed with a lot of these guys. Darth just kind of does this whole thing in the precept argument. Otangelo does this thing where he gives you like what he likes about evidentialist arguments for Christian apologetics, and he'll use those up to a point, and then when he gets cornered with something, then he'll retreat into a presuppositional apologetic, which is why he was clinging to Darth Dawkins, so he can turn around and then use that and be like, hey, you have to be a total skeptic. Nothing that you believe in actually works, and there's no reason to think any of this is real. Antonio Fletcher, abortion is murder, period.
I cornered him really hard a couple weeks ago. I cornered him really bad a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
really
he does the same thing. He makes these pro-life arguments, and if you get him on a point, whether you're talking about politics, public policy, or ethics and morality, eventually at some point with the skeptic, how can you know? Yeah, you don't have anything to ground your morality on. Like, what are you doing? And at that point, that's when I always ask him. I've done this like twice in conversation with him. Then what the hell are you talking to me for? You wanted to talk to an atheist, and now I'm here, and now you're telling me that you can't understand the words coming out of my mouth. What the fuck is wrong with you?
He always
You're wasting everybody's time.
Well, on your worldview, how can you know anything? All right. Well, I guess you're giving up having a conversation.
Well,
when you start doing that, it's like I guess you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But you can know. I always hate that question. Never mind. Because what you know doesn't mean that what you know is necessarily true. Truth and knowledge are not. Truth isn't contingent on knowledge. But either way,
and neither is certainty.
Yeah, exactly.
But Otangelo does like to use. He wants to use like naturalistic, scientific, methodological techniques because he wants to talk about the probability of life existing. He wants to talk about, intelligent design from using naturalistic explanations. But when you refute his positions in that specific area, then he resorts out to the precept position, like I think Jefferson was saying.
I don't think he likes naturalism and using science and stuff like that. I think it's just a more effective means to give him information for a Gish Gallop. Like that's really what he's doing, is just trying to overwhelm people with tons of numbers and stats and other stuff and go into super tedious biological stuff that's not really relevant.
Well, and that's the weird thing, because you notice with a lot of these guys that kind of, and it happens with some of the professional Christian apologists, if that's the thing. But well, a lot of these guys, they find their niche. Like, you know, Antonio Fletcher's got his like pro-life stance, but they tend to get gravitated to the one thing that really kind of like hits their dopamine, right? And for whatever reason, naturalistic explanations about the origins of life and evolution, especially the origins of life, like abiogenesis, for whatever reason, really makes Otangelo philosophically nauseated. And it's just like it's a scab he can't stop picking at. Like, you know, he's just going to keep working that thing. And for whatever reason, he thinks that that's like, because that creates that kind of uncertainty in him, he thinks he can use that to create uncertainty in others. And like, that will get them a little philosophically nauseated. And then, well, there's nothing left to do but to accept the Christian God, right? That's the only way that's the only life wrapped out there.
And it's funny, I've never found... I've never found myself at precipice where I was like, uh-oh, I'm about to accept the Christian God now because of this. Uh-oh.
It would be funny to, and I heard somebody like almost do it. Like, I think you've almost got me there, Darth. And Darth just lost it. And I'm like, there you go. There's an example right there. They don't even buy their own shit. Like, he was willing to, and like this guy was like, you know what? I think you're actually starting to move me on this position over into this direction. And Darth just continued to call him, no, you're lying about that too. And it's like, okay, so you wouldn't even acknowledge if you actually converted a fool? Like, what the hell, man? Like,
right.
And
you were talking at the sky.
I get so irritated when they constantly use the word lie. Like, am I like Otangelo's like, you're lying. I'm like, wait a second. I could potentially just be misunderstanding your position.
Right.
Like, I'm not necessarily purposefully saying something that I know is true, and I'm saying a mistruth purposefully.
You're a liar.
Hey, Jason, next time he says that, if you have a conversation and he says you're lying, tell him to show your intent.
It's one of my favorite razors. It's Hanlon's razor, right? Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity, right? And the easier way of actually getting to that is also, don't assume someone's being deceitful if the situation is they're just mistaken or just wrong. Right? Yeah. You could just be wrong about it, or you could just be confused about what the other person's trying to communicate. But no, they immediately jump on the deceit train because they're revealing, and this happens with anybody who's kind of gotten into precept argumentations or transcendental arguments, the psychological stance of the skeptic opponent that they're going up against is one who is a deceiver and deceived either by forces of evil or by themselves or a combination of the two, and therefore they must gird themselves, and they must, they have to use the armor of God and the sword of truth and all that other fancy stuff.
But what's interesting,
or whatever one it is.
Well,
yeah.
What's interesting is the double standard, though. If Jason were to say he's lying, he would say, by what means do you ground your truth in knowing that I'm lying?
And can I add to that Otangelo, at least for a fact, knows that he's lying most of the time, because we've caught Otangelo several times when he posts links to scientific findings, and then all he has done is read the title of the paper.
You can't let this go, can you, Peter? You can't let this go. Let it go, man. No, we know this, man.
This is a fact. He reads the title of a paper, and if the title agrees with his position, then he will post it on his blog. Everything, the actual scientific papers that he has posted on his blog, will disagree with his position. And we've pointed that out to him after we read the entire paper.
I've always been tempted.
He knows he's lying, and he still has them on his blog.
I've always wanted to, like, if he presents a paper to me, I wanted to do this to Gavin Harleman during one of our debates, but I bit my tongue. But it would be fun to do to Otangelo, and he's probably still watching. So, but I'll give it up. Like, he's like, well, what do you think of this study? And then he reads off the title, and I'm like, well, I'm going to cite my own. Kids love kicks for what kicks have got. Mom loves kicks for what kicks have not. So there, come at me with something else.
The email that Otangelo sent me, like, I know he thinks that it's like a very intelligently structured email, but I had a response, but I never sent it to him because I'm like, you know how you like write an email response and then you're like, you just draft it because you're like, I don't want to send this because I don't care. You know, it's just like, it's cathartic. You
I do
know?
that all the time.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
and by the way, Jeff, kicks are for parents who just don't like all those colors that tricks have.
Yeah.
Kicks are for kids.
Well, it's tan, so it's no nonsense, you know.
But in the email he sent me, he sent a bunch of info, and a lot of it, like I went and I obviously I took the material and I Googled it, and a lot of it he just like rips right out of stuff, like verbatim. Like, and my response, I'm like, you know, you should note that this technically is a form of plagiarism. Like, you're not actually citing this in italics, you know, you're just ripping it out, and somebody could make an assumption that that's actually your words, but it's not really. It's just word for word out of something else. And a lot of the stuff he took from his own blog. Like, he's got some writing from like 10 years ago, and he just ripped it. It's not even original. He just took his own shit from like 12 years ago.
Well,
and plopped it in there.
So yeah, sorry to talk over you a little bit there at the end, but somebody pointed out that some of his paragraphs, it was like, you know, you break them down, it's like it's borrowed pieces of information from different sources, and then he's like created new paragraphs. And then what he used to do, and he used to get kicked for this, he used to do it on Speed's channel quite a bit. He would, if things got a little heated and then he left the room or he got kicked from the room or whatever for misbehaving, he'd linger in the live chat and then he would just spam whole portions from his blog. He just copy and paste them in there. I'm like, yeah, they would just be these kind of like tangential rants.
And on Speed's channel.
Yeah, he sent me a bunch of stuff like that. You know, he likes to run the probabilistic argument about abiogenesis, and I actually looked at it. It's so lame because it's like there's so many arguments against. He doesn't actually know probability theory at all, so he's just like, doesn't take into account simultaneous trials. It's not, there's no conditionality to it. It's just really funny when I read this stuff. I'm like, it's obviously written by somebody that's like, doesn't really have a comprehension of probability.
But if you took the number of particles in the known universe and multiplied that times the time of the...
Knock it off.
Jason, what is the issue with that? Because this comes up a lot. I've heard Erica bring it up. I think I've heard many people bring this up to a lot of these apologists when they try to bring up this, like, it's like it doesn't have to happen sequentially. There's simultaneous trials going on. Why is it just because that sort of kills the whole argument? But they like, I've never really heard them grapple with that. They never really wrestle with that. It should be. That should be like, that would be one of those things where if I were a Christian, I was like, oh yeah, it seems just completely incomprehensible that you could get these odds out. And then somebody's like, simultaneous trials, and then explain, and like, it doesn't take a big explanation. Oh, okay, well that changes things. That's huge.
If you actually, and actually I've read a few papers on this, that it still is it lowers the probability down when you increase like simultaneous trials across the entire world, given like the number of potential molecules in all the like purported ocean areas, that it lowers the probability down considerably. It's still a high number. So I'm imagining that a Christian could come back and say, okay, even if you did make that assumption, it's still a high probability. But it does refute this argument that Otangelo makes, which is that the number is like 10 to like 722,000 odds. It's not that. It's not that. It's still high, but it's. Yeah. I think that the number is lower than that.
And you hear the way that they explain it too, because they want it to be intuitive. They're like, it has to go this way, and then it has to do that each and every time, and it's only happened like, it's like these aren't happening in just an isolation. It's not just like. This is happening all over the place. Like,
that's right. And I'm not even taking into account the complex nature of like interactions between those trials. So it could, because remember, these aren't like a billion trials all occurring separately. Like people, a lot of times people make they think of it, it's not one test tube, it's a billion or billions of test tubes. But in reality, they're not all separated. There could be interactions that could be occurring. So in that way, you have even more trials going on because there's interactions and effects between all those. So
wait, I think you're onto something. Basically, what you're saying is the same way that Otangelo reasons is the same way these trials happen. Throw a bunch of shit around and see what happens.
Yeah,
but thanks to natural processes and stuff, things kind of get productive eventually over time.
Yeah, give it enough time. Yeah,
they completely ignore the fact there's 320 million cubic miles of water in the oceans. That's a lot of molecules. That's a lot.
But even and this is the argument I was making to Otangelo, and then I'll stop talking about him if you want to move on to Darth. But like even if you were to conclude that method of life forming is, let's just say it's impossible. It's impossible that structure of how we've suggested that life came to begin is impossible, or almost impossible. That still's not an answer for God. That just means we don't know how life formed, and it could be an alternative natural mechanism that we just don't know about, and that in and of itself is more probable than a supernatural explanation of which you have no methodology for evaluating something that is not natural. And that's what I was getting at with Otangelo. It's like, what's your methodology for evaluating supernatural claims? He didn't have
But
one.
how can you know that, Jason?
Yeah.
You don't. None of us can know anything.
I want to give the theist an argument because I'm tired of their bullshit arguments on this. They should point out that on the geologic timescale, it seems like life arose on the planet basically as soon as it possibly could. So why don't we see it happen now?
Because conditions are different.
Yeah. Also,
it seems
you've
like
got a
those
lot of
conditions
life.
are,
You got a lot
yeah,
of
they
life.
should answer with. It seems like those conditions are suitable for life.
They're suitable for complex life now. They're not necessarily suitable for simple life, because now there's complex life that'll eat simple life. Ta-da!
Is there simple life
what
now?
I was trying to say.
Well, it depends on if you want to talk about viruses or not, because viruses are still
Because
there.
it seems like it's okay for simple life now, right?
Well, not necessarily. Like, I mean, we can, there's microbes out there that can eat protein. So if they're going through and get, we don't have to get all the way to life before something gets eaten. So you don't necessarily have to you get all the way in the chain to life before everything gets mucked up.
I'm just waiting for the bacteria that eats radioactive waste to turn into Godzilla. That's all I'm waiting for.
That's gonna be cool.
Yeah. But that's mostly fungus though, right? Fungus is all over that radioactive stuff.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
It is worth pointing out. There's a somebody in the chat pointed out earlier, and I don't know if he's still here, and I can't pronounce his name, but the gentleman whose name starts with a K pointed out that one thing that a lot of people on kind of our side of the spectrum do a lot is sort of we're over invested in the idea of abiogenesis, and it's not a scientific theory. Like, it is so not fleshed out enough to even be considered anywhere close to a theory. Like, we're barely to a hypothesis yet in terms of figuring out, like, well, we don't know how. We've got a lot of ideas, but there's not a theory of abiogenesis yet.
Wait,
the odd thing is, though,
were you referring to cafe?
Yes.
Yeah, because cafe's my favorite theist drug peddler. Sorry, cafe.
I think it's interesting though that in the debates that end up happening there, if Christians are like, well, I don't understand why you guys are all like hot to try to talk about abiogenesis. Like, no, the only reason we have to talk about abiogenesis is because most of you keep conflating it with evolution.
I have to ask Jay, is Cafe your favorite theist? Because he says that you need to take lots and lots of drugs.
No, he's one of my favorites because at one point I was imitating Jill. I was impersonating Jill at one point, and I was in a live stream with him. And we were in a live chat, and he actually thought I was actually Jesus is Lord, and I told him to stop promoting drug use. Yeah, that was a good conversation. It was interesting because I was slipping up, and I was doing pretty good because I did so well that I ended up getting banned from Knox channel. But either way, the messenger reveals was not convinced. He's like, no, I don't think that's actually Jill. And so there's like, why do you think? And he goes, because he hasn't fucked up your yet. So
I was gonna say I don't know Cafe well enough to say if he's my favorite or not, but I think the current top contender is Madsen. That guy's awesome. I love him.
Yeah. Madsen's my favorite.
I have to go with the guy who was on Speech Channel earlier, Martin. He's really deluded, and he has some weird ass beliefs.
It's really deluded.
But you can have a decent conversation with him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to end this broadcast now. We've gone over just over 2 hours. That's a little longer than I usually want to go. But thanks, everybody, in the live chat. Thank you for everybody for watching. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We're just going to end this. I'm going to hang around just a little bit in the background if you guys want to chat a little bit. Other than that, we'll see you all later. Posted links to Jason Torn's video with Otangelo that was in there. So recommend you
like
go
and
watch
subscribe.
That. Like and subscribe and all that, or dislike and flag and stalk if that's.
Thank you, Angry Terrence Stamp.
Jefferson, can I finish, please?
No. you can get fed to Peter's eagle for all I care. All right. See you later, folks.
And that eagle does look hungry.